Okay, so we are broadcasting live now, I think.
Oh, good. Hey, where's my donuts?
Where's my donuts, babe? Hey, babe, did you forget me, babe? All right.
Oh, oh crap.
Dan something? Dan Cortez. That's who it is.
Name doesn't ring a bell at all.
Just look him up.
I could.
Here, Dan Cortez Seinfeld, and you will find
Hey, did
that.
you guys know that Wood Talk is now live? That's great.
Well, I've heard the rumor.
Very
I'm
strange.
gonna go over and check it out. See if I can get a cool echo going on.
Echo, echo, echo. Yeah, I'm actually doing that too. But I
You guys
got
know that Wood Talk is.
up. There he is.
Look at that.
Okay. I didn't even look at the show notes since you guys went in there and dirtied it up with your dirty little pudgy fingers. All right, so we got a couple Patreon people. That's good. What's the beginning? Joy of Traxel, strength of loose tendons. Hey, I just glued up some loose tendons today. Some artisanal tendons. I was going to use those words improperly from now on. All right, I guess we're good to go.
Okay.
Did you see the extra and the weekend? I found two decent ones that would be good there.
Yeah, those are good.
And
I have no idea what I'm gonna say in either case.
All right, I'll lead you like a horse to the water. Not saying you look like a horse, but
Wilbur.
no, Wilbur.
Room.
Matt, that was a show when our parents were kids.
That show even predates me. I'm just going off of like
That was Nick at Night.
reruns on TV
I'm
Land.
glad
or
you guys
Nick
are
at-
up on
yeah,
the
Nick
pop
at Night.
culture thing. I'm not. Any generation's pop culture at all.
I learn everything I need to know about pop culture from Nick at Night and TV
Oh,
Land
good. Okay.
and the Game Show Network. So I'm good to go. All right, you guys ready to do a stupid show?
That's stupid. Don't call this show stupid.
It's-
People enjoy this.
Okay,
This is meaningful to people.
you might be right.
Right.
Okay, it's
Hey,
Way
three.
to stand up for the show, Matt.
Public scolding right there.
Way to go. Thank you.
See that, viewers? I got you. I'm all about you.
I like when Matt snaps
Priorities.
back.
Priorities.
I like when Matt gets mad at me. It's like a little angry kitten. All right.
Well, you know, there's that animosity between the two of us.
Well, we got to keep that going.
That's
Yeah.
true. Gotta keep the feud alive.
That's right.
But Shannon's just kind of sitting there like,
Well,
I'm
I
staying
don't,
out of it.
I don't know what's going on.
I don't know what's going on.
Both
I don't
of you
like
guys
him.
scratch
I
and
don't like
pull
him.
hair.
Okay, let's do a show. Oops,
Oh.
my windscreen is all cattywampus. All right, here we go.
Welcome to Wood Talk for woodworkers by woodworkers. Now, here are three guys who have great personalities: Mark, Matt, and Shannon.
All right, it's Wood Talk number 361 for February 27th, 2017. On today's show, we're talking about the joy of track saws, strength of loose tendons, and getting into welding. And before we get to that stuff, we'd like to thank a few folks who helped us out on Patreon. That's patreon.com/woodtalk if you want to join in the fun. Send a few bucks our way and you'll get some cool stuff in return. We'd like to thank Peter Boyez, Jeff Preacher, I don't think I pronounced that correctly. Sorry about that, Jeff. Jerry Miller, Rich Peterson, Jeff Smith, Tim Ward, Kyle Grabert, Charles Fackler, Michael Bulliant, Young Tom, and Ken Fitzpatrick. Oh, also Brendan Hughes. So thank you, folks, for helping us out. If you do sign up for Patreon, we will announce your name at the beginning of the show. Just like that, we'll make you sort of internet famous, and that's awesome. That's always fun, right?
Oh, yeah, we have that much reach.
We really do. All 20 listeners. So I think we should get into what's on the bench. And for me, I'm working on the trestle table, and that's actually why we're a little bit late recording. I think we could have recorded earlier if I would have noticed the text that said that Shannon was available. And I was in the middle of gluing up the trestle legs.
I'm glad that I rushed out of there and broke several speed limits to get home in time to record.
Of course you did.
Only to sit here
That's
on
right.
my butt.
I'm sure that's exactly what you did. I know how you drive.
30 minutes.
You drive like an old lady on Sunday. So anywho, I glued up these trestle table legs and sitting right behind me now. And after this point, because this is one of those things, there's a lot of stuff that has to be made first, and other things have to be fit to those things. So this is kind of just stage one. The trickier stuff is to come with the rail and the wedged tenon that goes through the side legs. So, but it's moving along. I'm actually really pleased with the pace, and this is my first real. I'm calling it real in air quotes. Woodworking project in this shop, so I'm super excited to see it come together.
Got to be careful with that word.
Yeah.
I know.
To infringe on constitutional rights.
That's
when you say
right.
real.
You got to be careful. Yes, it's the way it is.
Oh,
But that's really it. Nothing too exciting, so I won't take up too much time. Matt, what about you?
What did I write down?
Milling son's bed.
Oh, yes.
Gluing together boards to make logs.
Oh, yes. Which would you guys like to start with?
I'll go with son's bed for 100.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Woo.
Yes.
So I am starting on a little bit of a woodworking project, which is fantastic news for me. Because being in the shop is a totally different experience than being outside working on something.
Mm-hmm.
So with this project, I'm kind of, and this is actually going to kind of play into the weekend show. Heads up to everybody.
Cool.
I'm kind of going out on a limb a little bit with the design because I'm kind of building as the wood speaks to me. I'm trying that whole thing out. So I'm doing it in walnut and maple, of course, for Shannon.
He loves that.
For no one else other than Shannon.
That's right. That's why I did walnut and cherry on my trestle table, just because I know how much Shannon likes it.
I love walnut and
I'm
cherry.
I'm sorry, Shannon. You're never
That's
gonna hear
good
the end.
design, Mark. Walnut and maple. Oh.
It's just too. Oh, that's too white.
Walnut and cherry are complementary, not contrast.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Oh,
Yeah.
man. So I'm also doing some stuff like live edges. I'm doing a live edge on the top of the headboard and the footboard, and I'm doing a live edge on the bottom of the rails. Just to see how that kind of looks. I'm not totally sold on the live edge on the rails yet, but I've chosen a piece of like a narrower piece of lumber that was a crotch. So it has a crotch on one end. So I have a straight edge on the top edge. That'll be like where the mattress is or whatever, and then the bottom edge will be a live edge. And where that crotch is, it kind of like, how crotches are. They kind of splay out like at an angle.
I know all about crotches, Matt.
I know you. I
I
love the crotch.
I know all about them.
Money on Mark actually saying that.
Oh, yeah, I'm pretty predictable when it comes to that. Sorry, go on.
So I'm leaving the live edge on the crotch, or that kind of angle on the crotch. So as the rail comes into the post on one of the ends, it's got it's like a brace kind of thing, a built-in brace to the rail. So I thought that might be kind of a cool look to leave that in there.
Nice.
A crux
So,
frame.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm kind of experimenting with that. I'm not really sure like on a lot of the exact details. Like I know I want I'm making the headboard and footboard out of 2 boards that'll then splay out at an angle. But I'm not sure what the angle is going to be, if I'm going to splay the first board out from the angle of the post at all. So I'm kind of playing around with a lot of the things and just seeing what feels good. And this is actually the way I prefer to build. I've been like building like the plans or like having things like figured out ahead of time, because most of the time with stuff that we do, it's really beneficial to like convey to people that are actually like watching this stuff, like how it's going to look or what you have in your mind if you actually draw out a plan first. I don't have that, like even in my head. So I can't draw it out. I can't do anything like that. So I'm kind of changing the way I'm doing my videos for this one specifically. And I'm kind of like taking the viewers along the whole process as I kind of figure it out as I go, instead of just like building this thing, figuring it out as I go, and then telling you what I figured out at the end. So it's kind of fun.
That's cool. Different approach.
Choose your own adventure with Matt Cremona.
That's right.
Exactly. Where are we going to go?
If you want to
I
through
always
10 in
wonder-
here, turn to page 35.
I wonder, like, the live edge thing has become so in vogue and popular. At what point will it run its course and you've got too much live edge to the point where it's like rustic, like gypsy furniture or something?
Yeah.
Isn't that what that stuff was called, with like the grapevines and everything and all the interwoven, I mean, I guess rustic or country furniture where you've got actual log furniture. I think that's the term for it. But I just remember watching a Woodwright shop where he talked about gypsy furniture. It was all like grapevines interwoven together and stuff. It's like, when do we cross the line into, you just took a log and cross-cut it and stuck it together?
That's funny because it reminds me of pieces of furniture that I recall from my childhood. My uncle had this and my mom had it. It was a big wall-hung clock, and I believe it had like an Native American woman painted on it or something like that, but it was like just coated with plastic, like whatever finish they put on it was like an inch thick. And they both had them on the wall. And then my grandparents had a coffee table that was very old, sort of live edge style. But again, the key to both of these things was they were all just covered in almost like what it would look like if you put an poured on epoxy finish on it. And I just remember looking at them going, oh, these are just awful. Like, who would want this in their home? And now these things are like, sort of coming back, maybe a little bit more of a natural finish with different varieties and cooler styles, but everything goes full circle, right?
Very true.
Cool.
Very true.
Yeah.
Well, I started building a Ramtang, and all I can think of is the death metal band Rammstein as I build it. So I gave in and just put that on the radio, which really doesn't work with hand tools. There's something just
It's a counter to
the genre doesn't work. You
Yeah.
know?
I got you. I can see that.
I got into it as I was chopping a mortise. That made a little bit more sense, but trying to keep the rhythm of Rammstein to chopping the mortise is just dangerous.
Mhm.
It's just far too much chopping and too fast. But yeah, it's one of those things where I was like, do I really need that? And then I had a conversation with Zachary Dillinger. If you don't know, the Ramtang is I think it's a Dutch. Is it Dutch? Something like, I don't know, something weird. It's a Dutch joiner's tool. It's from a movie. I don't remember what movie that is. I don't know. He had an accent, something weird. But anyway, it stands for it translates to window pliers. I think from Dutch is to translate to window pliers. And I happen to have some moldings that I need to joint, so I figured, you know what? Zachary says this is like the tool for doing it, so I figured, what the heck? So it's just another experiment, and I'm playing around with it, and it's kind of a fun little project.
Ramtang. Every week, it's like a new vocabulary word with you. What was last week's? The Egyptian instrument?
The sistrum.
Sistrum? Yeah. Okay, this week it's Ramtang.
And it might be Ramtang. I don't know.
Yeah.
Ramtang. Ramtang.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Ramtang Tugger. No, that's Broadway.
That's over our heads, is what that is.
I just want the listeners to know that occasionally Rammstein ends up on the radio in my shop, and yeah, it just doesn't work.
Cool. All right, well, let's get into what's new. And before we get to this list here, do you have anything, Shannon, that you want to update us with in the world of the exciting, ever-changing world of lumber?
I mean, I hate to be like, it seems like all the news in the lumber world is this is going to be expensive now, people.
Hey, if that's what it is, then that's what it is. That's fine.
We are seeing a spike in pretty much all domestics, but the biggest one is walnut. It's become super, super popular. And guess what? There's a lot less of it than there was before because of the thousand canker disease, which is really wreaking havoc in New England and across Pennsylvania and upstate New York. And unfortunately, it's one of those. I will admit I haven't researched the blight as much as powder post and like emerald ash borer and everything. So I don't know, like, if it hits the tree, is it done for? Because 9 times out of 10, what happens is these forestry services, in an effort to stop the blight, they go in and just start clear cutting things out and then just burning them. And I never know, like, there's always that, well, once you cut it down, is the lumber still good? I have a feeling this is one of the ones where you kind of have to like turn it to ash in order to stop it. Whereas the emerald ash borer, as far as I know, once you rip the bark off, you actually have some workable wood underneath. And powder post can be similar if treated, if kiln dried properly. But I think thousand canker is particularly malignant, and it's just causing some real shortages in like the upstream supply chain of walnut. And at the same time, walnut has become super, super popular for like high-end construction. So we're starting to get a little concerned that an already expensive species is going to get a heck of a lot more expensive in the coming months and year.
Time to stockpile, baby.
There you go.
I don't know where I'm going to put it, but I'm going to stockpile.
Oh, you can turn to me.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's a
You
good
borrow
idea.
a cup of walnut from Matt.
That's
Yeah,
right.
there you go.
Cool. All right. So we got a few more links to share with you here. First one was submitted by Alex. He says, you might like this, as I suspect there's some D&D in your DNA. The second half of their promotional video, that was pretty good. I like that. It's all in a reading too, by the way. Let's see. Their promotional video shows their production line and the fact that it's all small batch handmade. So this is actually a Kickstarter page, and scroll down a little bit, you'll see the video, and it does indeed show their workshop and how everything is really just all the attention you would pay to it if you were building something like this for yourself. So it's a really clever system for D&D players. It really seems to be focused on the dungeon master who's going to, be showing things to the people and want to flip maps around and draw on them. Very interactive. It almost seems like something that would pair very well with the gaming table that I made a year or two ago. So definitely check it out. I think
cool
they're
how modular it is too. It's
totally
also,
right. It's
kind
really
of from a
well
marketing perspective. It's kind of a cool idea.
super well thought out, like the dice tower where you could actually drop the dice in and you have there's a little lever you flip, and it's for either public rolls or internal private rolls, and you can kind of whether people can see the dice or not. It's actually really cool the way they did that. And I don't think
what's interesting though is later on in the video when they're showing the shop,
Yeah.
and they talk about how all the finishes are hand rubbed and they don't use dyes and stains,
Mm-hmm.
and the guy is actually finishing that dice tower.
Yeah.
And that just looks like a royal pain in you know what.
Yeah.
That little moving part in there, and I'm trying to figure out, like, did they pre-finish that? Is he wiping wax on? And then I started to think about, well, how would you actually pre-finish that? Because it's like a captive part.
Yeah.
So it just looks like a royal pain in the butt
Sure.
to finish that thing.
Yep.
A little moving part in there.
And I
So
think just looking at the
kudos.
numbers, they've like way overfunded for this. So I don't think there's going to be any
that's
problem
awesome.
reaching their goals. So good deal.
Let's see. This is one that I've actually seen show up a couple of places around the internet. John shared this with us. It's an article about this is Berkawood. It's Brickawood. Basically,
Brick of
it's
wood.
wooden blocks, like think Lego blocks made out of wood. And it's a lot of kind of sliding dovetail construction where these bricks just kind of slide into these vertical stanchions, and you're essentially building what looks like a brick house. Well, it's obviously wood, but they're individual
Brick
bricks,
pattern.
and they're hollow. Yeah, that's the idea we're going for. Brick pattern. And they're hollow on the inside, so you can blow in or dump in or however you do the insulation inside in between it all. It's just very cool. It looks like a lot of fun too. Like I want some of this. It's basically Legos for big boys. I mean, it's like Lincoln Logs and Legos crossed on a life-size scale. So
Yeah.
it's pretty neat to see this.
Yeah,
Running
for sure.
around with your dead blow, tapping them all together.
Yep.
It's like the only tool you need to put that thing together is a hammer. That's great.
Yeah, I don't think there's any kind of adhesive in there at all.
That's crazy.
Just pounded together.
Yeah. I want to share a video over on YouTube. It's called A Sawmill Story. It's a video of a guy who was restoring a circle mill, and he had to kind of figure out all the details about it. And this was like probably, I think it was like the late 80s he did that, so he was doing like a little look back video at it. It was really well done, really interesting. Talks a lot about the dynamics of a circular saw mill and like all like the factors that go into getting it to cut well. Like I said, I didn't really think about it, but if you have a blade, like I think this one was a 52-inch blade, so getting like a blade that wide or that with that big of a diameter to spin true and not like, I don't know, deviate through your cuts as it's kind of spinning and how fast that's to be able to spin and all that stuff. It's kind of interesting to watch, so definitely recommend checking that out if you need a little entertainment.
How good did you feel though? Because it was there's some really good info in there and very compelling case for this sawmill.
Mm-hmm.
But how good did it make you feel when it got to the end and it said, of course, today we use bandsaw mills and those are much better, like superior cut. I was like, Matt's like starting to sweat bullets over here as this guy makes such a compelling case for a circular mill. And then he finally says, yeah, but now they're obsolete in favor of bandsaw.
There's still swing blade mills, and that's one of the things that like I'm going to do a video about like why I decided to build that mill over like doing like a Lucas mill with a swing blade with a dedicated slab attachment. But the problem with the circular saw mills is for me, I want wide cuts, and you're really limited to the cut width with a circular mill.
You imagine that circular saw blade? Dang.
Stay out of its way, baby.
Yeah, no kidding.
Don't want to touch that. All right. Next one here is something that I normally wouldn't do because it's almost like an advertisement, but I thought it was really funny.
Right.
So Lucas Peters, who's actually a friend, met him a number of times, really nice guy, over at Wood Magazine says, hey, I thought your audience would be especially interested in our latest turning plan, and we'll put the link in there. It is a spin a yarn bowl, and it's to hold yarn. It says, because of their enthusiasm for the topic, I made a coupon code for this plan for a limited time. Enter knitting rules for a 50% discount on this plan. And he said it's also in the May 2017 issue, which is on newsstands now. Lucas Peters. Well, thank you, Lucas. We appreciate the coupon code, and I hope we can send some business your way. So there you go.
I can just imagine people in our audience just like, typing in that coupon code and like, frickin'
Right.
like grumbling to themselves. Knitting sucks.
The war is still alive and well, my friends. Fight the good fight. Okay, let's get into our kickback. First of all, a couple people corrected me and informed me that when I saw artisanal water, and like, I was walking by very quickly. I wasn't paying that much attention. It was just stupid. But anyway, the difference between artisanal and artisanal. And so, yes, I stand corrected. I understand the difference now. And I still don't care, but I still think it's funny.
Well, depending on how it bubbles up or how that you collect the water from the artisanal well,
Yeah.
it could be artisanal water.
Well, it depends on if the guy's got a beard or not. If he's got a beard, then it's
Right.
artisanal.
He's collecting it in a bucket made from, fig leaves and hemp.
Right. And if it was
therefore is artisanal water.
yeah, if it was filmed with a DSLR camera and posted on Vimeo, then it was definitely
with lots of depth of field.
yes,
right?
definitely artisanal. Slow
particles
slow
floating through
motion
the air.
water drops and everything. Yeah. That's exactly what
I
defines
totally
it.
want to see that video now.
I'm sure
Somebody make that.
Sure, it's there. Okay, I've got a voice memo here sent in from Nick. Where is it? There it is.
Hey Mark, you often mention that you can use the voice recording feature on your smartphone to record a kickback. I just wanted to point out that if you have an iDevice, you can also use GarageBand,
which has the added benefit of using all sorts of crazy filters to make an otherwise banal question into something that would be almost guaranteed to be played.
That's all. Thank you.
Man, that was awesome. I didn't know you could do all that
is
stuff.
all.
So yeah, if you do that stuff, he's right. You'll definitely get put on the air for sure.
Right.
Okay, so let's see. I'll do this. Or Matt, why don't you read this one from Andrew?
Oh yeah. It's
only
only,
It's really long.
only like really long.
I'm talking too much.
Let me
It's your
I
turn.
get oriented here. I gotta put that up higher in my screen here so I can get comfortable. Lean back on my chair.
It's
Get
all right.
you guys.
I gotta get a drink of water, so go
I
ahead.
just looked at this yarn bowl. My mother-in-law is going to want one of these.
Oh boy. Well, use the discount code, man. It's 50% off.
It is a good deal. All right, here we go. This one's from Andrew. It says, regarding the weekend show, I agree with Mark. There's no Mark by that spelling here.
That's right.
So-
There must be someone else.
It's that other mark.
Did you guys do a show without me?
We always do. Sorry. Hate to break it to you. Actually, half of the shows that you're on, we're doing a show without you, so it's fine.
Oh,
Okay. Ball busting over.
I'm glad we can never be too serious. I would not like doing the show if it was any more serious than it already is.
Nope.
I agree with Mark that things like IKEA furniture can almost be a gateway drug. I finally started really woodworking after my wife and I got our house, and the first really big project I did was a Rogue Engineers trestle desk with an added keyboard pullout, which was replacing a $35 IKEA desk that somehow lasted me over 6 years. When I find myself noticing that I've got a few projects under my belt is when I find myself noticing now, what I find myself noticing now is that I've got a few projects under my belt. While cheaply made, there is a certain simple elegance to the design of IKEA furniture that could easily be replicated with high quality materials. The old desk was in all 5 pieces of MDF with a drawer slide, something that could be easily made with higher quality wood. When I didn't know any better, I got a certain sense of accomplishment out of putting together IKEA stuff. Now, as I'm older and wiser, I'll get even more sense of accomplishment out of building their longer lasting replacements.
Cool.
Nice.
Yeah, we got a lot of feedback on that conversation that we had.
Well,
What was it, the
and
weekend show?
kind of- yeah, the whole craft, the maker movement and quality.
And
and all
quality.
that
Yeah.
stuff.
Okay.
We got a lot of kickback. Actually, I can't remember a post that we've had that many comments on our actual show notes page.
Yeah.
We get comments on Facebook and comments on Patreon now, and it's almost like the blogs have become tertiary or quaternary now when it comes to actual people commenting on it. And we
Yeah.
have quite a few people with some really, really good kickback. So big thanks to Mike, Ben, Tom, Tony, Andrew, Jack, Michael, George, and probably 4 or 5 others that have shown up since I actually put that into the show notes. But there are a few people, as I expected, who have taken me to task, calling me elitist. One accused me of infringing on his constitutional rights.
That's right.
How
dare you.
Saying that the quality is an issue. But I really encourage you to go to woodtalkshow.com, look up that episode and read some of those comments, because there's people coming down on kind of both sides, or people coming down in the middle. There's a really interesting analogy about baking a cake that came up.
Cake.
If nothing else, mission accomplished, right? I wanted to spark some conversation around this thing, and I think there's some good discourse going on about that.
I'm surprised that
this elitist or not.
This actually caused a little more of a kerfuffle than me making fun of old woodworkers that poop themselves.
Right.
I expected to get more flack from that.
People expect that from you, though.
I guess. I say stupid stuff all the time. I know. I'm sorry.
No, but for the record, and as I said at the beginning of that episode, I don't really have a problem with anything that's going to increase the maker movement. I don't know. From my perspective in life, I just feel like if you're not challenging yourself, you're just not going to get any better.
Yeah. Well, and I think you also, a lot of times with these things where it hits a nerve with people and they immediately either respond immediately or they kind of lock that one thing you said without the context of the rest of the things that you said. And you take it on the whole, and it was pretty, fair and, kind of gave you a really good perspective on things. But if you just take one little snippet out and get kind of pissed about that and then go write a comment, you might miss, I think, the bigger point you were trying to make.
You have to remember, people, that by day I am a marketer. I run a marketing department. Sometimes I do this stuff on purpose.
That's right. That's right. It says on his little name tag on his door, elitist marketer guy.
Elitist marketer. Oh, I'm totally going to get that. It's gonna be awesome. Going on the new business card.
Yep. All right.
That's great.
Okay, so we've got a voicemail here. These are regular voicemail questions. By the way, you can send us a voicemail on Skype. You can get us at Wood Talk Online or call our number 623-242-5180. And the first one here is from Robert. Has a question about finishing different woods.
To the oracle of all things woodworking. Hello again, this is Bob from the Tulip City. I have heard many things about finishing and read a few books on the subject, still don't really get it, but the night's young. What I haven't heard is what types of finish you would use based on the type of wood. Sure, the end use of the project is a concern, but what other finishes are best for different woods? I like putting boiled linseed oil on walnut. It seems to really make it glow. I've heard that may work for tiger maple, and maybe dye would work as well to make it pop. I bought some crap. It's an exotic wood, or for Shannon, it's an erotic wood, but I think you know what I'm talking about. Do you have any finishes that might work for different wood types?
Okay.
Sidebar.
Oh, he's still going.
I have so many questions. Only been at this for about 5 years, but I think that's what makes this hobby so fascinating to me. There's just no end to it. Just one rabbit hole after another. And I truly appreciate you guys' patience getting me through all of this, and of course your guidance getting me through it as well. It may never end for me, and I hope it doesn't for you. I truly appreciate this. Thanks, guys.
Well, it's going to end eventually. I mean, that's just
What?
how life works.
What is this now?
Sorry.
What happened?
Sorry about the bad news.
What the hell? I was
Okay.
not prepared for this today.
Yes, I hate to break it to you, Matt, but we need to talk. All right, so finishing different woods is one of those things. I actually got this question multiple times from multiple places in the last couple of weeks, that people are looking for sort of a guide to what finishes are best on what woods. And, in general, you can kind of use any finish on any wood, and the caveat being there may be some preparation that you need to do to make that finish go on that wood. But I think it's usually, I would say 99% of the decision making comes down to personal preference in what you like to apply and what you want this thing to look like over time, as well as how durable you want it to be. So you could pretty much put any finish on any wood. You just may have to do a little bit of sealing or as just a certain type of preparation to get that finish on there. I don't think it would make sense to really have a guideline for use this finish on this wood, because that's not really how it works. People just have personal preferences about which finishes look best on which woods, and there may be a few things to avoid, like putting a classic water-based poly on a dark colored wood. Generally doesn't look that good because it kind of gets a little a bluish cast to it, and it just doesn't look great. But other than that, I mean, can you guys think of? Would you think that would make sense?
At the same time, you might want that, right? There might be a
Someone may
situation where
want
you
it.
want that water white bluish cast, and some sort of aesthetic reason.
Maybe.
But yeah,
Sure.
Doesn't really work, does it?
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Do you see any cause or justification for even trying to provide some kind of a guideline for what finish goes on what wood?
No, I think you have to start with what is the feel that you want, what is the look you want, and then match the finish to that.
Yeah.
And it may be that particular finish looks different on walnut than it does on maple. So what wood are you using? What's the look? Do you want a warm look? Do you want more of a I hate to use the word, cold, warmer look or cold look? Do you want the figure to pop, and choose your tool for that effect.
Right. Makes sense. Okay, I'm going to try and get a voicemail here. Hold on.
Sorry, Matt, I talked over you there. You were about to say something. I can see it on your face.
No, he
I was
wasn't.
just nodding along because I agree with everything you say.
He was about to just drop something incredible.
I have about to drop some sweet knowledge on you, suckers.
Drop some knowledge bombs on us. All right, so there's another one here. This is a live voicemail right in Skype, and I hope I'm clicking the right one.
Hey guys, this is Hayden down in Tampa, Florida. Love the show. I just had a quick question for you. I recently had some new doors installed in my house, all out of white knotty pine, and I'm trying to match the finish in the rest of my house. Some of my trim, it's all pine also, but it looks like it's been finished to kind of look like a cedar or a aged red mahogany, or it's got kind of reddish brownish tones. So I'm starting using a garnet shellac, and it's giving me a rich brown color as garnet shellac does. And I'm looking to add some of those red tones into it, and looking at the transitant dyes. Haven't used them before, so I was wondering how those work with shellac. Is it okay to put them in shellac? What type of luck have you guys had with trying to match other finishes in with that process? And just love to hear y'all's feedback about it. So look forward to hearing my answer. I appreciate it. And like I said, love the show, long-time listener. Take care.
All righty. Either of you guys use Transtint much?
Sure.
In
I've got a couple
epoxy.
bottles of it.
Yeah, in epoxy. I do that too.
It's true. I just used it in in Duravar in the bookcase that I built. I wanted to warm it up a little bit, even though Duravar is already a little bit warm, but I wanted more warmth. So I dropped a couple drops of vintage maple Transtint in there and played around with it a little bit and got a nice warm kind of boiled linseed oil look
Nice.
to pine.
Very
Worked
cool.
out well.
Yeah, I don't see any reason why you can't add it to shellac. And shellac's a great medium for a dye. It's a fast drying finish. You could dilute it out with denatured alcohol as much as you want. So leave the shellac as sort of a binder, make it mostly dye solution. You could play with the formula quite a bit, but a lot of times if you're going to be really dramatically changing the color, you need quite a bit of that dye concentrate to get where you need to go. But it's still a viable way to do it. I don't see anything wrong with it at all. Okay. Where are we? Oh, emails. Okay.
We're on to email.
Email.
Yay, email.
I love the email.
Email.
All right. First one here is from Brandon. He says, do you consider a track saw a must-have for your workflow? Muscling sheet goods across a table saw is getting really annoying, and I am trying to justify a track saw. It is hard to justify another $600 plus after spending thousands on my cabinet saw, but it seems like money well spent. I know there are alternatives with jigs and a circular saw, but in your opinions, is a track saw worth the money? Thanks, guys, Brandon. I would say hands down, for me, it is absolutely worth the money. It was one of the earliest big purchases that I've made when I was, sort of a struggling cabinet making business. And I found that having the ability to make those cuts early on a piece of plywood, get a nice clean edge. Even if you take that sheet right from your lumber dealer, take that to your table saw, there's no telling that cut edge, the factory edge, is actually going to be straight. So being able to establish a straight edge, even if that's all you did, and then go to the table saw, you're even better off than you were otherwise. So the fact that you could break things down, get a couple different length tracks, and have everything broken down so you don't have to bust your back putting these things on the table saw, is absolutely worth it. And if you look into using it for jointing, I actually have boards that are way too long, and I know I'm not going to get the reference surface I need on my jointer beds, so I'll give it a quick trim with the track saw first, straighten it out as much as I can, and then all I need is one very light pass, maybe two at the most, especially if it's like an 8-foot long piece. So those track saws are fantastic for that as well. So I think absolutely, I can't say it's a must-have for everybody because there's other ways to get it done. But if you're considering it, it means you kind of probably already have an idea of how useful it could be, and you're just looking for confirmation for someone to say, yes, go ahead and spend that money. And I'm going to be that person for you and tell you
I like that.
yes, go ahead and spend that money. What do you guys think, just in general, track saws as useful as I'm making them sound?
They're useful, but it really depends. It's a lot of money to invest, and it depends on what you're trying to do, your workflow, and how much hassling you want to do. So, yes, a homemade track with your circular saw does exactly the same thing, and you got a nice straight cut. It's a lot more of a hassle because you got to get that track in the right spot. You got to clamp it down, blah blah. Maybe it's heavier. I don't know. I mean, how much hassle do you want to deal with, and is it worth $600? Is kind of what it comes down to for me, at least. It's a fantastic tool. I love having a track saw. I'll say that much, I guess.
I love having it. It's that value proposition we all have to make. I mean, if he's doing this as a hobbyist, then maybe the sort of decision matrix is a little bit different depending on what you're doing and what your budget is and all that stuff. And it's a very personal one. But to me, the way he worded this sounds like he's on the fence and just needs me to go boop and push him over.
And even going back to budget, like $600, you could spend that on something else that might help your workflow even better than a track saw might. I don't know.
Yeah.
Again, depends what you're doing.
Right.
Sorry, Shannon.
If it helps, Mike, I have a track saw.
And that says a lot.
Is that what it is? So
it's
everyone
one of
should
the
buy
few
one now.
power tools I have. But when it comes to breaking down plywood, it's fantastic. And there's something to be said, about the cleanliness of a track saw cut. Yeah. Granted, the right blade on a regular circular saw and a guide, a shop build guide will probably produce a similar cut. But yeah, there's just something about it. Just it locks onto that track and becomes kind of idiot proof.
Yeah. Maybe it's the plunging.
That
plunging motion that does it for us. It's totally different.
I do like a good plunge.
Cut.
Yeah,
you do.
That's what they say. All right.
Okay. Well, somehow we ended up out of order. And
you put your question after Mark, so I just left it there. So I thought maybe you wanted to, switch things up.
Shake it up, baby.
A little boring,
Yeah.
Fear change. This one comes from Darth Rust over on Patreon. Thank you, Darth Rust, for being a patron. I'm planning a sideboard, and I'm seriously considering loose tenons for the casework because some of the pieces will be awkward, i.e. slow, to make integral tenons. What's the rules for strength? I'm assuming 1/3 rule for thickness applies, but is wider or longer better than thicker? At what point does a double tenon become appealing? Are the planning assumptions identical to integral tenons? Good luck. We're all counting on you. I like that. Little airplane reference there. So, I mean, with tenons in general, I don't think you can really look at loose tenons and say it's dramatically different than an integral tenon because really, if it's fit properly, it's just as strong. I mean, it might as well be an integral tenon. Once you glue that loose tenon in place, you just kind of added a shortcut there because you can, shoot your end grain and then bore the hole in and then glue it in and ta-da, integral tenon. Yeah, it may have rounded shoulders and all that stuff, but I think from a strength perspective, it all comes down to what's your glue surface. So when you're talking about, is it wider or longer, better, the more glue surface you can provide, the better. So if you can make a really long tenon, if your part will allow for, 2-3 inches of penetration into the mating part, that's going to be stronger than one that only penetrates 1 inch. If you don't have, 3 inches of length, then maybe make it a little bit wider. Obviously, the wider the tenon gets, the more kind of the wood movement stuff comes into play. So it's all a fine edge. You have to balance what you do here. As far as coming into the twin tenon, I think a lot of times the twin tenon shows up because of something like the domino, where you've got pre-shaped dominoes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you're not, unless you're making your own dominoes, you're not making a domino that's 4 inches wide, 5 inches wide. I don't know the sizes of the new big ones. I think those are mostly about length rather than
Yeah,
width.
you don't get very wide. Just the nature of the tool can't go very wide.
So then you make a twin tenon because, you know, you're not going to make a bunch of homemade wider dominoes. Twin tenons, I think, also work really well on really small parts. Like, think of like the bottom rail on like a sideboard or a side table. You know, that skinny little 3/4 inch thick rail that goes underneath the drawer. It is more prone to twisting. And if you put a tenon right in the middle of that, it maybe will twist a little bit more than if you created twin tenons. But I don't see that the loose tenon is really any different. It's all about glue surface.
Yeah, I'm doing loose tenons on this trestle table, and I started thinking about how deep could I go? How deep should I go? And, you know, when you're balancing that router on a fairly narrow edge of a workpiece, and you start to go, okay, well, I could go 1.25 inches, but wouldn't I be happier just going 3/4 of an inch deep? And I look at that depth and I'm like, is that really strong enough? And this is just one of those things that reminds me that we totally overbuild with some of these things, that like this 3/4 inch deep mortise is going to be just fine. Could I have made it deeper? Would that have been stronger? Even if it was, I don't know that it's going to matter, because what would it take to break this joint? Probably more than I will ever subject it to. You know, so
Let's break it.
Let's find out.
Let's do it.
Let me go step on it right now. Cool.
Is we good?
Yeah, we're good.
All right.
Good.
This is from Mike. He says, having watched Matt's videos of his impressive, thank you, bandsaw mill, I am now very interested in welding. So Matt, how did you get into welding? Are you self-taught? Why are you using a stick welder instead of a MIG setup? Is there any welding podcast you can recommend? Maybe Metal Talk. Is there Metal Talk? I should probably have.
It's probably
done
about
some
music
research on that one
I
for
don't
the
know.
show.
Check out metaltalk.com and go buy it, Matt.
I'll look it up.
So I got into welding, I guess, out of necessity for my my lumber fetish, my log fetish. I needed to get logs home. I wanted to get them on my trailer, so I built my log arch for my trailer. And that was my first time doing any welding. And yeah, so that means I'm self-taught. It's, I guess, just like all the woodworking you see me do as well. I went with a stick welder for a couple of reasons over MIG. MIG is like, it's a wire feed welder, so you just have a gun and it has a piece of wire in it, and it's continually feed, so you can keep welding forever. Stick welder, you got a little electrode thing that gets consumed as you're welding, and you have to kind of switch them out every now and then. I went with the stick welder because of mostly of cost. You can buy the welder I have used for like $100. It works really well, and everyone said it's harder to do. So being the crazy person I am, I wanted to actually have some kind of, I don't know, dexterous skill to my name, other than just holding a gun and pulling a trigger. So I mean, there is a certain finesse to stick welding, but I think people really oversold the difficulty of it. It's really not that hard. If you can pair with a chisel, you could probably stick weld just fine. It's not that difficult. The other thing I like about it as well, for thicker stock and structural stuff like I've been doing for like actually like moving heavy stuff around, you can get much deeper penetration, and for a novice especially, you end up with a much stronger weld than you would if you were just a novice trying to MIG weld the stuff together. Because it's very apparent when you're stick welding how much penetration you're getting, because you can literally see the metal just dissolving in front of you. And the hardest thing about stick welding, which makes it hard to weld things that are thinner, is the amount of heat generated by that one little spot where that stick is. So if you have the welder set too hot and you just stop moving, you're going to blast a hole right through whatever you're welding. So that could come in handy if you need to cut some steel or blow a hole in something. You just turn the welder up and start the arc and just hold it there, and you'll go right through it.
Sounds like
have a
fun,
hole.
actually. I think
Yes.
I'd do that.
Sounds
just
like a
on
good
purpose.
time.
Woohoo!
It does work, but you know, you get a really good gauge of how much penetration you get, so you can really know, you can have some confidence in the strength of your weld, even if you're a beginner like I was. I don't know of any welding podcasts. I'm sure there are. There's a lot of good YouTube channels. The one that I liked the most when I was getting started was Welding Tips and Tricks. Jody over there does some really great videos on, I guess, how to do it, a little more of the technical details, or like walking you through some of the steps. Another good one is Chucky 2009. I found he's definitely helpful. A lot of people recommended his, but I didn't find it as helpful as Jody's videos over at Welding Tips and Tricks. But,
Nice. I just searched for welding podcast, and that was the first one that came up.
Oh,
Welding Tips
sweet.
and Tricks. Yeah.
There
You know,
you go.
I did a live Instagram thing this weekend, and someone thanked me for not getting into welding like Cremona and April Wilkerson. I was like, really? I don't know. I think welding's kind of cool, but I don't personally have a need for it right now. But I respect it. I think it's a cool thing to do. But I don't like metal. I hate metal. Well, cool. Is that it? We good?
I think that's it.
I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a show.
That's a show.
That's a
Call
show,
it.
baby. All right. Well, don't forget,
show.
we do an email extra in addition to the weekend show, which comes on the weekend. This one is going to be for our $4 patrons and higher, of course. And we're going to hop into our time machines and go back a few years. And, well, it's a few less for Matt than for Shannon and I to, when we went to college. And if we knew what we know now, would we have done things differently? So we're going to play with that a little bit. Should be interesting. So if you want to support us, you can. You can get that extra show if you do the Patreon at $4 or higher. That's at patreon.com/woodtalk. You can go get a Wood Talk t-shirt at twwstore.com or look us up in iTunes. This doesn't cost you anything. Just look us up, go to ratings and reviews, and give us a nice rating. Let us know what you think of the show. And Shannon, why don't you do the contact info, and we'll get out of here.
I would love to, Mark.
Okay.
I take great pleasure in contact info.
I know.
If you have reasons that you want to contact us and you need our contact info, there are several ways that you can do that. You can leave a voicemail on Skype, that is. Our username is Wood Talk Online. You can call our voicemail at 623-242-5180, or you can write it out at the fancy contact form at woodtalkshow.com/contact. Or go to woodtalkshow.com. Go to the bottom and enter a comment and hit submit, and you're done.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Okay.
That's all.
And that's it. And then maybe you'll hear his thing on the show.
All right.
Maybe.
Okay.
If you put a voice filter over top of your voicemail, you will be heard.
It will increase your chances for sure.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody, and we will catch you next time.
See you. Bye.
Goodbye to you.
Goodbye to you.
Goodbye, sir.
Good sir.
Quite formal.
All right. Let's get ready for the extra. I got to scrape some glue behind me here before it dries too far. There's giant bubbles of glue back there.
I love it.
It's driving me nuts because I know it's going to be, by the time we're done, far
Is that
too.
a euphemism? I got to scrape some glue.
Yes, that is a euphemism.
Everything is a euphemism.
Everything could be if we wanted it to be. All right, let me cue up the show. We'll kill the live stream because we're doing the extra, and that's only for $4 patrons. You freeloaders. It's a joke. All right. Well, thanks for watching and hanging out with us, folks. I see you in the live chat. I see you. I see Sean there. Brendan. I feel like the hell was that show? That kid's show where she looked through the thing and she would say all the kids that she sees. Is that Romper Room? Shannon, you know what I'm talking about.
Get all these shows from.
It doesn't ring a bell at all.
Why is it like 3 times? It's like a local PBS thing. 3 times we've had old show references today. What's up with that?
It could be Romper Room. I don't know. I was more of a Captain Kangaroo guy.
Yeah, I think
Reading
it is.
Rainbow.
I think it's Romper Room. Okay.
Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, of course.
Mm-hmm. I actually got Mateo into that for a little bit. It was on Netflix or Amazon or something. He actually liked it for a while. Lost interest though, very quickly. All right. Well, thanks everybody. We're gonna kill the live stream. Have a great